About all I've ever done is go to church. I grew up in an era when Baptists believed if they could keep you at church, you wouldn't have time to sin. Most Baptists learn to sin at church. From experts. Wanted to note that. And it was kind of fun. You know, we didn't know that you shouldn't do stuff. We just thought it was fun to go to church all the time, play coffee pot and other kinds of exciting games, and pass it on and that kind of neat stuff. Well, I grew up in church and did all kinds of things that most kids do. My senior high school days were spent in Jacksonville, Texas, the Piney Woods country over near Tyler. And I was in a small town, Jacksonville, with about 8,500 people, and we used to do all kinds of crazy things, you know, sort of petrified the town without really hurting it. Like we'd put the S&H green stamp sign in front of the funeral home at night, you know, and they'd drive by the next day and there it was, you know, we give green stamps, blowing your Had a great friend, Elmore Averett, who's one of my all-time favorite and most delightful friends for years. And Elmore and I used to cruise around a lot at night playing crazy tricks on people. One of our favorite things to do was ride around town, and Elmore would be driving the car, and he'd put his left arm out the window, hold on with his right hand to the steering wheel, and sort of turn at about a 45-degree angle and lean back against the door as he drove along through town. I would lie down in the car seat and hang my feet out the window on the other side. And, you know, little things like that sort of kept the town honest, you know. Elmore looked like he was 9 feet tall. But we always went to church, and one of my most favorite things to do was to sit with a group of about 8 of us in the balcony on Sunday morning. We called ourselves the Baptist Sunday Bulletin Balcony Bombardier Brigade. The reason for that, we used to take a stack of church bulletins with us. They always overprinted, hoping for those who never came. And we'd take this big stack of bulletins up, and during this boring sermon, we would sit there and fold these bulletins into little flying airplanes, paper airplanes. Pastor never knew we were up there. The pastor always looked at the right corner back under the balcony where no one ever sat. And he preached in kind of a slow, holy mumble. And we could never understand him. Never made gestures, never saw him raise his hands except once. Generally, he'd just sort of hitch up his pants on the right hip and keep talking. Holy, and the Lord, and kind of do that, you know. Funny looking old guy. And he would do that kind of stuff, just sit there and talk to that corner. And it was the dullest thing in the world. It was like listening to a hum in one ear. And so we'd sit in the balcony and fold all these airplanes. Church would be over, the pastor would benedict us. Raise his hand. When he put it down, the choir would start singing, amen, amen, you know, so you know it was really over. And then there'd be this enormous vacuum created as everybody rushed out to try to beat the Methodists to the local cafeteria. And you can't beat them because they get out early. But there'd be a silent moment in the church, and the pastor would then stand there trying to remember which side his study was on. And then he would make an exit off to one side. Well, as he would go, we'd start sailing airplanes out of the balcony. And they would fly out and floop, bloop, 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 bloop. Just beautiful, man. They would dip and curl and swoosh and fly. That was so much fun. Get the best one and run back up and sail them one more time. Try to get at least to the third row if you could. Our most favorite Sunday of the whole world was the Sunday that they had the budget report, because it was done on legal sheets. You can flat fly a legal sheet. Crease it long ways down the center, 14 inches, and start curling it back on the corners until it looks like a paper spear point without a handle. And we'd line those things up on the front edge of the balcony, and about 8 of us would sit up there daring Cuba to make a move. You know, just... Now, these didn't float. These came off there and went just straight ahead, man. And it was so much fun to do. We were sitting up there one Sunday with about 25 or 30 of them all made. Pastor was preaching to the right back corner. Holy, hallelujah, and the Lord home. Pulling up his trousers. Well, he was sitting there just preaching away, and one of the guys in our group crossed his foot and accidentally punted one of those airplanes. It popped a wheelie coming off there, and it was gone. pastor looked around from the corner back toward his notes to try to remember what it was he wanted to say next. Caught the motion coming toward him and looked up into the face of a racing paper airplane coming right out of the balcony. The only gesture I ever saw him make, he threw up both hands and went, "Oh no," you know, kind of like that. And we all thought it was the second coming and the Methodists had been right and we'd been left. You know, that was what shook us up. Had a lady in our church named Miss Bombardier. Miss Bombardier sat on about the third row down front, looked pious and wanted you to know it. Funny looking lady, had her hair piled up on top, great big salt and pepper gray beehive hairdo. Looked like it was wrapped around several old towels, you know, to give it body. She couldn't shake her head or move it quickly. She sort of had to turn under it, you know. Say, "Morning, Miss Bombardier." "Hello there." You know, she was just goofy looking woman. And she was one of those women who pulled all her eyebrows out and then drew them back on. One Sunday they'd be skinny, one Sunday they'd arch, one Sunday one would be sideways, the other would be up. You know, just had a little teeny mouth and a huge lipstick. Biggest lipstick you ever saw. Looked like she put it on with a kid's elbow, you know, just big old mouth. And she'd sit down here with gloves in her hand across her purse and just yum, 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 yum. Look holy. And there she sat, drinking at the fountain of the pastor's wise mumbling insight. Yum, yum, holy, holy, hallelujah. And he had just looked up and goes, and this airplane goes, hit her right in the hairdo, man. Just quivered up there. So cool.